Well, welcome to our local non-league, and apologies for the background. I haven't had a chance to change it yet, but we'll get to that as we move on through the series of interviews during the season. But of course, joining me for the very first time, I suppose, on a Sunday night, he's of course Enfield Town manager Gavin MacPherson. Gavin, it's great to have you on, and of course a tough game really, I suppose, to start with, but you've got to be really pleased with that result yesterday. I know it was a defeat, but you've got to be probably pleased with the result and pleased with the performance.
To an extent, I mean, I'm never pleased to lose football matches, that's for sure, and it doesn't matter whether it's pre-season or not. But I have said to the lads that it's not about winning football matches, so I've got to stick with that. It's about us, certainly in the early stages of pre-season, seeing what we need to see. And as I've said to you already, I'm not playing or towing a management line here and giving some cliches out. We set them certain tasks yesterday, and what we needed to do was hit a good percentage of those tasks, a good ratio to understand that the players are understanding what we want from them in respect of the 2 weeks training that we've done, the bits and pieces we worked on. So from my point of view, yes, from that point of view, we came away pretty comfortable. I've just come from a management sort of FaceTime meeting with the guys, and we've discussed this and discussed various other bits and decided that, yeah, actually, it's a decent start. There was some difficulties with a lack of forwards in the team, which made our shape was not quite what we wanted it to be. But actually, what we did yesterday was set them a task out of possession, and I said this certainly for the first two games. We would look at that because they were two teams that would come and should have more possession than us, being pro sides, being that bit fitter, being that more together and working together on a daily basis. But I don't think it actually panned out like that necessarily, and in some respects we probably created slightly the better chances in the game, and we're actually disappointed not to have scored one or two yesterday. The manner of the defeat, i.e. the goal we conceded, isn't acceptable. But then when you flip it, how much have we done on set pieces? That work actually starts from Thursday, so you can't be too harsh on the boys.
I mean, with it, I mean, anybody out there that sort of stood out for you that you thought sort of excelled on the day? I mean, was it when I saw on the team list, there's a few trialists on there, but I mean, are those sort of trialists that you would have back in again to maybe play against Spurs on Tuesday night, or is it going to be a case of you've seen enough, or are we going to see any more sort of signings coming through the door?
I'll take that one step at a time. I mean, so the first two games, certainly against QPR and Spurs, we always were looking to keep the squad quite strong in numbers. The reason for that is because some of it is that you want people to play 45s in those two games. It's all about not pushing the boys too quickly, because that breeds injuries sometimes when you ask people to go. They've come back in from pre-season. Some of them, well, most of them, you would hope keep themselves fairly fit during pre-season, during the close season, I should say. But they come back in, they're given quite a difficult and hard schedule from that point onwards. And sometimes you just need to alleviate the risk of injury by keeping their minutes to not to a minimum, but to an adequate level. So yes, you need to keep that squad strong. And you badge them as trialists, and I get that. These are boys that have been working with us since day one, really, and are part of the group. They've become part of the group. But inevitably, you can't run with 22, 23 players. So of course, there will be some people who will have to depart at some point. I think all of those lads that we badge as trialists did a really good job yesterday. Did a really good job. They're coming into a team. We didn't, what some people might look at as go and put our strongest 11 out, if that can be the case, one half, and then change it the second half to include, say, a team of trialists. What we did was we did in sections. So we used a back four that we felt was fairly comfortable back four, with a midfield that was a little bit mix and match, and Marcus up front in the first half. So we mixed and matched it really in respect of experience, in respect of players knowing each other in both halves, and used sections to be solid. I think from the point of view of standing out, certainly the back four in the first half did a really good job. I mean, they were really experienced back four. Mickey Parcell coming back in alongside your James Richmonds and your Joe Paynes and your Carl Baileys, kept it pretty tight, pretty tight. I thought Marcus up front was excellent in the first half for us and could have bagged a couple of goals. But you look at some of those players who we badge as trialists, and saw them do a very good job in very difficult circumstances. Some of them playing a little bit out of position and that type of thing. So for me to be sitting here thinking that maybe we should have won the game, maybe, close, but maybe we could have on a different day. I've got to be pleased with that as an overall. But certainly did we see what we wanted to see yesterday, and that was effectively out of possession work, Dave. So we worked hard on when we press, when we don't press, when we sit, when we don't sit, how we function, what shape we function at certain scenarios. And we saw that yesterday. There's still a bit of work to do, but we saw that. So we came away from it, having had that brief with the players, fairly comfortable that we've had a good day and we can move on.
Because moving on to Tuesday, because you're going to play that poor team up the road, and it's that should be a little bit easier, shouldn't it?
No disrespect to QPR. Probably we're looking at a step up in opposition, and we'll need to step up for that. Jake Cass is not quite going to be there yet for us. We're hopeful that he's back in some sort of training on Tuesday, not ready to be put into a game yet. And Cassie fit and ready for the first game of the season. That's the aim. But Reece Beckles-Richards, who missed yesterday, is coming back in. So it gives us a little bit more shape, a little bit more scope to look at. And I've mentioned before that we will try and be fluid in different systems. So we'll probably employ a different system on Tuesday. But we'll also look at the fact that we are still working in that out of possession aspect because of the two games that we had. So we'll look at a different system, but we'll actually functioning differently out of possession. That's what we'll be looking to take out of it. We'll slowly get into in possession work. We've done a bit on that, but that's going to take a little bit more doing because too much long ball for me yesterday. At times, we gave away possession cheaply in respect of turning the ball over. We need to look at when to shorten up our game and when not to. It tends to be a little bit more, we'll go quite happily over 40, 50 yards, but not necessarily looking over 10, 15 yards when it's on to do so. So that's something we've got to install in the players, certainly, and that's what pre-season's all about. A new manager comes in. It's always the most difficult thing to get them to change to your beliefs and your philosophy, if I can use that word.
So I mean, with it though, any sort of injuries that you're a little bit concerned about, long-term injuries or anything like that, or just sort of short-term stuff?
No, we showed. So again, part of yesterday was the 45s to not come off the pitch with any injuries, apart from Joe Payne, who got a kick basically on his shin, which was bleeding at the end of it. Bit of a naughty tackle. He's not injured by any. He's probably a bit sore today. So the only real injury that we have got is Cassie. That's been since the start of pre-season, and this is an injury that's overran from last season. It's overrunning from the season. But I think we're in a position now. I won't tempt fate that he's now going to be coming back for us, and we'll play a real chunk in pre-season once we think he's ready to do so, certainly from a games perspective.
So, with the fixtures though, the league fixtures have come out, and where do what's your sort of thought process, I suppose, on those? Because not a bad little start, I suppose, with Concord, coming in first, Concord at home and Potters Bar away, Folkestone and Victor away, possibly depending on a FA Cup match there. Of course, Cray Wanderers at home, so quite sporadic sort of home games, really. We've got one on the 12th, one on the 26th, and then sort of depending on the FA Cup game, maybe then the 9th. So there's quite a few sort of got 3 to 2, shall we say, on the home and away games.
I've said it before. I I've been a long believer that the Southern League, that we obviously my previous club was in at the same level, was the stronger division. I absolutely think that has flipped completely on its head this season, and we see a league now where, looking at that start, it's difficult. It's difficult. I think Folkestone are going to be strong. I think Concord are going to be strong. Potter's Bar, local, did really well for a period last season. I think we've got as tough a start as any. You could throw any four teams that you just mentioned there as a sort of over the first week and a half at me and think, well, yeah, they're all tough. That is all tough, and that's not just me being again a manager's cliche. Oh, they're all tough games. I think this division has massively stepped on this season, and I think from the point of view of whoever we played, it was going to be really, really tough. That really because in some respects you tend to, it's not absolutely exclusive, but you tend to try and recruit players if you're trying to recruit them, and you're in the same pool as teams that are in and around you, and you might be mentioning teams like Hornchurch and Billericay and Potter's Bar to an extent, and all those, and you understand that some of the pulling power of these teams, or supposed pulling power of these teams, is vast, without, and so I look at it and I think to myself, it doesn't really matter to me who you're playing. I think this league is a consistently hard league with good teams in it this season. I think it's moved on tenfold from where it has been, certainly last season, and I think we've got to be really on our money this season because I think it's the toughest this league has been for many, many, many years.
One of the strangest ones for me, I don't know about you, Gavin, when I looked at the fixtures when they first came out, is Potter's Bar Town at home on, say away on August the 15th. But then the reverse fixture, you'd normally get sort of, I don't know, end of December, maybe beginning of January, the reverse fixture. The reverse fixture is not till April the 13th.
Yeah, I've seen this happen in so many different various ways. I mean, there was a couple of seasons ago, we were playing people again.
We played somebody once, yeah.
Yeah. It was strange. I don't know what the thought process is behind it. I think from this league, it's generally more local than the league that I've managed in before. So I sort of look at journeys and think, well, anything compared to your Mercers and your Truro, that is going to be a bit more of a benefit. So listen, it is. They must have their reasoning behind it, but I'm not sure why that is.
It's funny you say that because I did have a little chuckle to myself when the National League South fixtures came out. And I don't know if you've seen Abley's last two away games, but the last two away games are Truro and Western Superman. I thought of you the minute I saw it.
Well, I can speak very fondly about those places. It's they're good places to go, to be honest with you. But you get a decent coach would be my that one because you won't be getting home much before midnight, really.
Well, I was looking for the nightmare journeys, I suppose, mate, and then right at the end of the season, I suppose, really. Hastings, April the 20th, Bognor Regis, March the 30th, and then, of course, the Lewis one's the 21st of October, and the Folkestone one's the 19th of August. So the Folkestone one could be a nice sunny day down on the beach.
Well, it might be for all of them. I think for the supporters, it might be, whether it's a weekend in Butlins when we go to Bognor or something like that. Who knows? But you look at it and you think, they're all sort of going to be. They could be good weather days. So we would love to hope that we'll travel in numbers. Of course, Enfield traditionally do that anyway. But we'd love to see a few more than maybe normal. And if the weather's good, then so be it. So I'm fairly comfortable that they're at those times of year, definitely.
What was the reception like for you last night, by the way?
Yeah, listen, I said it after the game. It a little bit went up on the website. I think we had 320, I think it was there yesterday. And, when these are not 320 QPR fans, or not 250 these are Enfield supporters that are out for a pre-season friendly. Will know and understand football enough that, it's a bit disjointed in those early games with trialists and etc. and things that you're trying to look at, and we'll know enough about football that they're not going to see any vintage stuff at those levels. We'll understand what I've got to do in respect of setting this team up and to have people wanting to have my photograph, have a photograph with me after, and all that sort of business was new territory. To be honest with you, it was new territory, and it was humbling. So reception was great. The boys, I made sure the boys went certainly up to where our fans were behind the goal after, and quite a few of them stayed and applauded the boys off, even though it was a defeat.
Expecting a bigger crowd tomorrow night. I should say on Tuesday night.
Well, you would think so. I think learning a little bit about the area, I think there'll be some split loyalties for that one. You'll get some. I'm sure there's some Enfield people who, their Premier League team will be Tottenham, as I understand it. So there'll be some split loyalties, and we're hoping for a good game. A really good game, because these games are set up, for the club as well. It's prestigious. Let's get it right. It serves as to put some money in the bank, and that type of thing. But that's not the first port of call. When the chairman was talking about this game to me, for me to get QPR and Tottenham as our first two games was a must, because it just helps us with our preparation, as I said, from an out of session point of view, to be able to look at how far we've come, have we grasped what we want to do. So it's a sort of a winner all round, really.
So as a manager in pre-season and a sort of manager coming in, might be a bit different for you, I suppose, this year. But when you go into that sort of pre-season, before it starts, and you've got your team signed up, or the players you've actually physically got signed up at the moment, do you actually ever sit down with a pen and paper and go, well, this is what I think this is my preferred side if everybody's fit for that first game of the season? And how much does that change from the first game of the season to get into that weekend of that game with players actually sort of showing you that they should be in that first 11 on that first day?
I think naturally you always do that. If not down on paper, probably in your head. You'll look at it and have an idea of what you think will be your strongest team that first game of the season. There's so much can happen between now and then. Touch wood, there's no injuries. And certainly your opinions can change. Your opinions change because players show themselves that you maybe didn't expect, or players show themselves to be in a shape that actually matches what you want to do compared to others that you thought might have actually fitted that shape. So there's so much to do. The one thing I will say is that you need to have a balance in respect of your experience and your sort of youthful enthusiasm, that sort of legs and energy type thing that I'm trying to bring a bit more to within the squad. But actually, if people are showing themselves to be worthy of a place, then I don't go overboard on reputations or where people have played before. I'll look at it and I'll throw them in. There's not a problem with that. Not a problem with that. If you're hungry enough, then you're going to give me what I want. If you can do it at your feet, you've got the ability to do it. But have a balance. You've got to have some people that can manage a game for you, can be an extension of you on the pitch in respect of problem solving. If anything, in my previous club, we were a much younger side, and that side of the game we didn't necessarily have. So you were constantly having to problem solve. I'm hopeful that we've got some people who can do that for you on the pitch, and my voice can get a bit more of a rest. Put it that way.
What about any sort of news for the fans around any more incomings? Are you looking for more incomings? Are you happy with what you've got? I know you said you've got quite a large sort of squad there with 22, but I mean some of those being trialists as well. I mean, is there anybody there that's sort of like you're still looking at thinking we might need to strengthen in this position or in that position?
Yeah, I mean, always. I mean, you never pass it off as being as business being finished. Do I think we've got a balanced squad? Yes, I do. Do I think that I'm still on the lookout for a couple of positions that maybe I think we would need to either improve in, or we haven't quite got that player I'd like to have a balanced overview squad? Yeah, there is absolutely. There's many different factors, Dave, and budget comes into it. You have to look at it and go, can we actually afford to bring more players in? But also from the point of view of, does it upset things? Are you comfortable where you're at now, and you can go forward and work with those players to be sort of implemented within a system, within a sort of how we work, how we function type situation. So I would say at the moment, yes, there's got to be players. I can't keep everyone, that's for sure. And I would say, sitting here right now, I can work with what we've got. There's no question about that. I could do with Cassie back, of course, but I could work with what we've got. There's no doubt about that. As it becomes apparent as we go, and it may do that we may need to look to add, and I will try and act upon that if I feel that's appropriate. At the moment, I'm not jumping. I'm not getting too jumpy with it. We have to live within our means as well. It's part of the equation of being a manager. You have to manage that side of the house. But yeah, you never say never.
Mm-hmm. Looking forward, though, personally, looking forward to tomorrow night, Tuesday night against Spurs.
Yeah, so many people ask me, "You're not an Arsenal fan, are you?" And I'm not. To be fair, I've got no allegiance in respect of that. Long-suffering Watford supporter, so people can have a good laugh at that. But no, when you're bringing a club like Tottenham Hotspur down, regardless of whether it's the 23s or whatever it's going to be, you've got to pay them the due respect that they deserve, of course. And it's fantastic for the football club because it's local. As I said, I think there's some split allegiances from our supporters in respect of who they might be cheering for. I get that. But you want these games. You want these games from a club perspective. You want them from a management perspective and a player's perspective because it asks you the sorts of questions that you want to be asked at this stage of the season. From our point of view, when we invite a Bracknell in and teams like that, and we go to a Welwyn Garden City, we of course we'll look at things differently because these teams are in and around our level. Tottenham are not, so we have to be good at what we want to get from the game, and if we can do that against the Spurs side, which will be undoubtedly a very, very good Spurs side, we'll do it against the opposition in the Isthmian Premier.
And it's always good taking on sort of like a middle of the table Premier League side as well, isn't it?
You're saying that, mate. You're saying that. People see what you're wearing at the moment, so be careful. But I think I'll swerve that question, mate.
Listen, mate, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I really do appreciate it massively, and I hopefully I'll get to see you on Tuesday evening, and we'll have another chat Tuesday evening.
No problem. Look forward to it.
Hopefully, a resounding 6-0 win for Enfield Town on Tuesday night.
I'll take it.
We'll take it right now. But for everybody else, we'll be back with Gavin, of course, on Tuesday night. You'll see our after chat interview after the game on Tuesday night. Hopefully a nice win for Enfield Town on Tuesday night. Of course, no allegiances from me whatsoever, but of course I will hide the Arsenal shirt. But hopefully it ends up being a nice easy win for Enfield on Tuesday evening. And but until then, thanks for watching. Good night.